Thank you. Okay, before we go into the closed session items, I would like to call up our special guest from our sister city, Maramori, from Maramori, Japan. So I would like to welcome you, and I have a microphone for you if you want to come up and give a little presentation and introduce everyone.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jane Perry, and Maramori is our international sister city, and they have seven junior high school students attending Dartmouth Middle School, and 2 adult chaperones that are here to experience Hemet Unified School Life, American School Life, and really just be welcomed by the city of Hemet as the international sister city. So I was born and raised in this town, and I was an international exchange teacher to this town, small town of 2,000 people in Maramori. And so I'm really like to continue this program as an exchange program representing, a citizen of Hemet with this international town. So maybe okay, could all the students, Japanese students and chaperones, please come to the front? Maybe just a photo op, and you just come over and, okay? Onegaishimasu. Hi. Okay. Okay, that's okay. Oh, sorry. Yes. So this program has been going on more than 30 years. When Mr. Ken Nishino and her daughter was my classmate. So they were the ones that started the Kushimoto at the high school exchange, and this is Maramori with the junior high exchange. So thank you very much for the citizens of Hemet for welcoming these people from Japan to our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, up next, we'll move on with our agenda. Item number 1 is the report out of closed session. Mr. City Attorney.
Mayor, the City Council met in closed session during the 6 o'clock session. We have 4 items of significant exposure to litigation. 1 item was added at the request of the City Attorney as a matter of subsequent need during the 6 o'clock session. The City Council has made it through 2 of the 4 items. There were no reportable action with regard to those 2 items. The remaining 2 items will be heard directly following the regular council meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. Up next is our consent calendar, which contains typically routine items of nature enacted by 1 motion. Sarah, are there any members from the public that want to hold anything?
Yes, item number 12.
Any members of staff?
I need to pull and continue item number 11.
Anybody on council want to pull anything? Okay. With that, can I get a motion to approve items 3 through 10?
So moved.
Please vote.
Was that Councilmember Ray?
Well, they both did it. That's all right. We both, yeah. They moved the same one, but.
Councilmember Ray.
No.
Was that an abstention? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that passes 5-0.
Yes, thank you.
Item number 11. Mr. City Manager, you want to pull that and continue that? Yes. Okay.
I move to approve that we continue. Item number 11.
Is there a second? Please vote.
Thank you.
All right. That passes 5-0. And then item number 12.
Do you want to take public comment first?
Yes. Yeah, let's, well, Chris, do you want to come up and talk about it, and then we'll take public comment from there?
Sure, I can give you a
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The item in front of you tonight is the award of a services agreement for our park securing services. If you recall, we had this at the end of 2017. Council had requested that we rebid the services, and in doing so, we also took a look at really what the services provided would be. We removed anything that was kind of a true enforcement that fell more under the PD side of things, and this really is just a park securing, a clear the park, lock it, twice a night, double checked, and go. So per our purchasing ordinance, we have our bid procedures, and we put the new request for proposals with the updated scope, out to bid in early February. Those proposals were due back February 28th, and we received 6 proposals. This was a low bid award criteria proposal, and so what we have is the lowest qualified bidder as per our process and our standards and our ordinance was identified as Alltech Industries. The company provided all of the required documentation to be considered a qualified bidder. In terms of pricing, was the lowest. Staff and our procurement administrator made reference checks. We did some internet searches and all came up with positive information across the board. So at this point, our recommendation following that process is the award of the contract to Alltech Industries. The bid was put out with a 3-year service contract with 2 one-year options. So as you'll notice on the recommendations, while the total being authorized is $96,000, that is for a 3-year period. So we really have a not to exceed amount of $32,250.40 annually. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Okay. All right. We have comments from the public that want to speak on this.
We do. So your first speaker will be Daniel Goodrich. He'll be followed by Terrence Clark.
Good evening, sir.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, Daniel Goodrich, Sierra Dawn Estates, Action Group, many other hats. Item 12 for me tonight is kind of not a personal matter, but it's a matter of interest for me because I understand the bid process in the city of Hemet. I understand that it's the lowest bid. I'm kind of wondering why it wasn't a best value bid. I'm kind of wondering why 27, 28 days, even though you had 6 bids come back, is a length of stay time enough to get in review. But furthermore, speaking of the company of Hemet Gatekeepers, who is a local company that also bid into that contract for proposal, employs people in our valley. It's a small business in town. It's an upstart. and they have great relationships with both Sierra Dawn. I know that one of my board members are here to speak about that, but the relationships that they've had in town with PD and the local businesses up and down Florida Avenue, 50-plus accounts, seems to me that they're qualified, they're here to stay, and for a $500 difference because of a procedure, it seems like something might be broke. I can't really speak to the context of the procedures of the city of Hemet. I just look at it and think that it's kind of a shame that the city has a procedure in place where it has to be the low bid. I understand that if it would have been a qualified bid, perhaps further questions could have been answered and some outreach could have been done. So for those reasons, I'm asking you to consider Hemet Gatekeepers in this proposal as a local business employing local people in our valley to provide a service for the city of Hemet, in which they're providing a lot of service to local businesses already. I understand, and I've done a little background on Altec too. I realize that they've done city contracts in San Jacinto and also work with the Unified, but those are different types or could be construed differently from what your needs are if you looked at the two different city contracts. So I'm not going to take up a great deal of your time. I just want to throw my 2 cents in because as a local business manager, the work they've done for me and cleaning up Sierra Dawn and the vagrancy and the transients that have been in my community, I couldn't speak highly enough about them. And they're very professional and diplomatic in what they do and the way they handle themselves. Thank you.
Next speaker is Terrence Clark. He'll be followed by Dale Gola. Terrence Clark.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening, Council. My name is Terrence Clark. I'm the park manager of Juniper Terrace Mobile Home Park on Devonshire Avenue here in Hemet. And we're just finishing our 4th month of services from Hemet Gatekeepers. And I should point out that the purpose that we had when we decided to hire a security company was to reduce the overnight, I guess we've had break-ins for sheds, automobiles, vacant homes. Excuse me. And another reason that we needed the security was we have a lot of unauthorized people that just wander through the park. Some of them just use it as a shortcut to go from street to street. The last reason was just to give our senior residents a feeling of well-being. So far, in the 4 months that we've had them, we've only had 1 report of a break-in, and that was to a vacant home. No reports of break-ins to the automobiles, and no break-ins to the sheds. We've also had reports, much fewer reports of people wandering through the park. A lot of residents that we have in the park have contacted me to express a better sense of security. I often hear we should have done this sooner. The other benefit to me personally as the manager is I get a morning report every morning. I get a report how many rounds that they've made overnight. They scan barcodes at the entrance to the park and in the back of the park, so I can verify the times that they've been in the park. And I also get things called incident reports or activity reports. And these are reports in detail by the officers on site that indicate there's a door open on the clubhouse, or they've interviewed somebody at 1 o'clock in the morning walking down the street, and they've escorted them off the property. So for us, we feel it's been an investment well worthwhile. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any other speakers?
Yes, Dale Gillum, and he'll be followed by David May.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Dale Gillum. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association for Sierra Donna Estates. Sierra Donna Estates has over 1,470 homes. We represent over 3,000 residents. In November of last year, the association approved a contract with Hemet Gatekeepers to provide security for our association. We have 4 clubhouses, 5 pools, 2 RV lots, and we had had several security companies prior to Hemet Gatekeepers coming in. We had a large influx of vagrants, trespassers, vandalism, thefts, and we couldn't, no security that we had prior to Hemet Gatekeepers was able to eradicate this. Since Hemet Gatekeepers came in November of last year, they've already made numerous arrests, including 4 arrests within a 2-week period of trespassers with one of our pool areas. Again, with representing over 3,000 residents, we've had nothing but positive comments from Hemet Gatekeepers. Their professionalism, their demeanor, the way that they talk to the public, to our residents, I can't say enough for them. I'm a retired police officer and former security director, and I can tell you I've dealt with a lot of different security companies and a lot of different security officers. And Hemet Gatekeepers is by far one of the best I've ever seen. They exemplify the word security. They're very professional, and they care about the community and the job that they do. We have a badge system with Sierra Donna Estates that if you're a resident, you have to have a badge to be able to use a common area. They constantly, one of their duties is to make sure that they go to the common areas and check for badges, which is something that no security company had done prior to this. And they're very diligent in doing that and making sure that the people that are in our common areas belong there. Again, I can't say enough for them. They're a great company, and I think that the council should really consider them also for this park contract. Thank you.
Sure.
David May. And he'll be followed by Steve Norman. We'll have 6 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your service. I moved to Hemet in 1964 when I was 3, and I've been practicing dentistry here since 1991. And my office is across the park from Weston Park. And we used to have as many as 3 break-ins a month at our building. And we fought the graffiti almost nightly, and the vagrants nightly. And we had another security company that in the valley that came by 3 times a night. And the people that were living on our property would just go back into the park. And then as soon as they were gone, they would come back. And so we had a terrible problem there. We have appreciated the Hemet PD for coming and telling us how they would do their very best to drive down the alley and make sure people weren't there. But there are so many other pressing issues in the city, as you know, that there's no way they could do that. We were one of the first people who hired Hemet Gatekeepers to patrol our property. And ever since that's happened, our property has been safe for us and our patients. And I was not familiar with your process, and I understand everything was done correctly. It would certainly be nice that if we could hire people from Hemet to do the jobs that we need done. And if you can't, we understand that, but that would be my only hope, would be that we could try and hire companies that are here serving us already if it's possible, would be my own, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up.
Is the green light on there?
There we go. Hi. Mayor, Council, just want to say thank you again for your service, and what a privilege it is here to talk tonight. I've thought a lot about what I could say tonight, and many times we stand up here and talk about our accomplishments. I don't want to do that tonight. I want to talk about some of the things that I think really our community needs. And not that we're such a great company, but the heart of our company, I think, is what I'd like to talk about. There's an old adage that says, it's not personal, it's just business. And I've never liked that. I've been in business for many, many years. I've been a pastor for many years. For me, it's always personal. And for so many different people, in fact, in this binder I have right here, over 54 clients that we've acquired since August 1st of 2017. And for them, I know it's very personal. They do business in this city. They try to, in many ways, do business in which it's very difficult because of some of the problems that we face in our city. For them as well, it's not just a job. For us as well, it's not just a job. But this contract means much more to us than that. On behalf of this list, I just want to talk about a few different groups of people. Of these 50 accounts representing our company, anyways, that we guard and we provide security patrol for, it represents over 10,000 people in this valley. And I believe that we're starting to see a valley that's looking vastly different because of our efforts in conjunction with Measure U and Hemet Police Department. I think about the couple on Lyon in Florida. It's a little donut shop. And they open at 4 o'clock in the morning and they work till 7 o'clock at night. One of the reasons they work that late is because of the problems they have with vagrancy in that area, in which most shops could close at 4 or 5 o'clock, but they have to sell their inventory. Many times they're too afraid to walk outside their door and do something about what is impeding business to their property. And this has been an ongoing process. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, we were awarded that contract. And it's been a pleasure to, at times now, listen to them over the past couple of days talk about that now people are coming in and buying boxes and dozens of donuts. Now, that might not seem like a big deal, but to them, it's their livelihood. And it's their way of living the American dream. I think about the couple in the 55-plus communities that often have told me, whether it's Juniper Flats or Terrace, or whether it's Sun Valley or Sun West or Sunburst or even in Sierra Dawn, that they worked hard in Orange County. They worked hard in many different counties all over the state, but they realized that they couldn't retire in the counties that they worked in. So they moved to Hemet because they could afford it. But now, to their dismay, it's difficult for them to walk out of their doors even during the daytime hours because they're simply afraid to go out and do business in Hemet. I believe that Hemet is changing for the good. But I also think about my guards. I think about the single mom of 4 children who's trying to raise them and working 60 hours a week in order to do that. I think about a single dad that's here tonight. He works 2 full-time jobs here locally to raise his 2 girls. I think about the father of 2 that's been in the industry of security for 18 years. And during those 18 years, all he's wanted to do is work in Hemet. And for the past 8 months, he's told us that he finally has his dream job, to work in the city that he lives in. I think about the father of 4 who volunteers with us 2 nights a week, but he wants to serve our city by guarding it the best he can because he believes in a Hemet for his children. One of my favorite movies, It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey, his quote was this, and I think he said it best: these are the people that do the working, the paying, the living, and the dying in this community. Hemet Gatekeepers, I know, is not the most qualified security company simply because of the amount of time that we've been in business. But I do believe this: we have the most heart. The decision you're about to make will be a decision that lasts for 3 years. A lot can happen in 3 years. It would be our honor to serve this community for those 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Comments from council?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please. No, I'm first. Questions? Am I on? Well, my light is on. Okay. My questions. Is 28 days a normal process length of time for an RFP?
I'm going to answer on behalf of Ms. Lorena, but normally for a service like this, yes, a 28 or to 30 days, so 4 week would be a normal time frame.
I'm just curious because it just seemed like a shortened length of time, and it could be because
and 28
the month was February, but that I see RFPs out for a little bit longer than that. My next question is, what made this bid the qualified? I know what made it the lowest price. What made it the qualified, that the others were not qualified?
The request for proposals document that itself specified that 6 items be submitted. Please know that I am speaking as your Public Works Director, not as your Finance Director or Procurement Administrator, but this is my understanding of it. I may need, oh, hi. And there's Lorena. Do you want to handle this, or would you like me to keep going? Okay. And I apologize, I am cough dropping once again. So, the items, bear with me. Required proposal content was identified in the request for proposals as a cover letter, which would basically state the owner and office location description, a company and staff background, a reference list, the proposal form, the schedule of prices, and a certification of insurance. Those were the 6 items.
Okay. I heard that. Okay. Did all of the bidders qualify? No.
No.
Okay. And I'm not going to ask which ones at this point because I think I already know. Do we allow for a preferential discount for local service vendors? I think we talked about this a couple months ago when we were going through the entire practice, because I know we do on items. Do we do it on services also?
We, and I may have to hand over to Lorena on this one. So.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In answer to your question, when this RFP went out, we were still under the old purchasing code. At the time, no, we don't allow for that.
Okay. And
we only did it for goods.
Goods. Okay, not for services. Okay, my next question is, when we send something like this out, do we have, as a city, do we offer any type of helpline or assistance to vendors who may be filling out an RFP for the city for the first time? Because, and I know they're confusing, there's legalese involved in it, but do we offer an assistance of any kind if it's requested?
Anytime there's questions, they can send those questions directly to our procurement administrator, and she answers all of their questions. And usually when one person asks, she sends out the question and the answer to everyone, so everyone has the same information.
Okay. Then that's all of my questions. I will just make my comment that I really think the bid should go to somebody else. That's my personal opinion.
Alan would like to make a comment.
I'd like to make a suggestion. It appears that a good segment of the community and then perhaps most of the council have a desire to award it to Steve. And then rather than, my staff is bound by whatever our purchasing laws are. Right. And so my suggestion is that the council throw out the process in order to the staff to redo it rather than try and rationalize a reason. That's a policy decision. You don't have to accept any of the bids, and then we can work with the people as directed.
legal want to weigh in on that? What's our liability?
No liability. That's a fair practice. And if you did that, you could do two additional things. One, it'd fall under your new purchasing ordinance, which does have a local preference. And two, you could do it by best value instead of lowest responsible bidder.
I like best value. Me too. So, with that.
Well, that takes care of
all your questions.
my primary question and suggestion. So,
and I have a comment.
Thank you for that.
I believe the whole reason that we rejected it the first time was for best value. And we didn't have the changes in place at that point. And that was in June of last year. So am I going to see this in 8 months again? Because this is going on way too long.
I can't answer that question since my department doesn't do the business. You heard your charge.
Can I make a motion to reject this? Reject this? Yes. I'll make a motion to reject all offers and go back out and do it again under the new guidelines.
I'll second that.
as best value.
As best value.
With that,
We
let's
are in
vote.
agreement.
Who seconded that?
I didn't want it. Oh.
Thank you, Council.
There you go. Thank you.
So it shouldn't take 8 months.
We 60 days. Wish to keep the heart in the city as well.
Thank you. Okay. We have gotten through the consent agenda, so now we can move on to communications from the public. Sarah, do you have anybody that wishes to speak?
I do. John Burkhart will be your first speaker, and he will be followed by Cameron Ray Nelson.
Thank you. Mr. Burkhart, good evening. Just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes.
All right, City Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, thank you for this opportunity. Did any of you get my little thing here that I left with the clerk? Okay, what I'm here for is to basically support not the things that are being said about the police department, but to try to help to diverse some of the issues that are dealing with what I'm writing in here. On January, the Press Enterprise had a story, as you are reading with me. The public doesn't see this. And there were some things filed and stuff. But with the kind of job that I had before I moved to Hemet, dealing with issues like this, I wanted to be able to help to have more input on how the city handles diversity, transparency, and disparity. Many of you probably don't know me that way, but I was appointed through Judge Nash of the California courts to work with cases in court cases, even though I'm not a lawyer. And I was able to work with the school districts and the city as a commissioner to do a lot of things. And I've met with the police chief here and Mr. Brown, the fire chief, just to let them know that I would like to help. I've got a couple more years if I'm 70-something, but I can give you a couple more years to help to eradicate some of the issues of disparity. If you don't have any of certain kinds of people in the disparity issue, which I'm not naming who they are, you will know that there's probably a problem, and there are laws about that. And I know what they are, and I would be willing to help. And if anything I can do to bring this up. Now, when I'm not before you, just so you know, I have other things to do besides just not worry about what's going on here. I was at a women's conference in Pasadena. I brought the articles here. I was asked to come. And I met the ambassador from Iran, ambassador from Cairo, ambassador from Egypt, and all that stuff. And I have it on video because I had to be there. I've also worked with the peace initiative from the UN, and I've helped with the Hemet teacher things that are trying to get raises.
and the car club. So, and then this is one of their banners here for more pay for the stuff. So I just wanted to show you I'm not just sitting around waiting to see if I can look for issues like this here. And Vice Mayor, I'd like to just have you give me a little comment sometime, because I do a lot of stuff in your district. And Mayor, I'm in your District 3 right near my house, you know, and I want to help you guys. After listening to you guys with all this brilliant stuff you're doing up there, I feel like you probably don't need me, but under diversity, disparity, and transparency, I can help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is Cameron Ray Nelson. He'll be followed by Eric Goff.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. It is a pleasure to be here with you guys. I can't believe you guys let me come up here and talk. I'm going to try and keep it down to 3 minutes. I'm sorry. I can't even stay on script. I'm a pastor of Treasures. Treasures is a church for poor people and homeless people on the street. I do church on the street with them. So that kind of tells you who I am. Recently, we all saw a family that got arrested in Joshua Tree. The parents were arrested for, in actuality, being homeless. They became criminals at that moment, and the kids became victims of bad parents in the legal system. And that can't be stopped once it started. The kids are now traumatized. Here in Hemet, we're getting a system going, a template, as you might say. Impact the homeless. Councilwoman Carly Myers knows about it. I'm part of the team. We're trying to get the whole environment of organizations, churches, and governmental agencies together to work together. Not this is mine, this is mine. We're trying to get everyone to work together to resolve this issue. I strongly believe that it can happen. There's a few things that's been going on lately also that's been in the news. We all know the city of Los Angeles has Skid Row. Skid Row is the way it is because of rules and regulations that have been put into place to protect that lifestyle. The police can't do anything about it. I don't know if any of you saw recently on the news the police protecting the trash people picking up the hazardous wastes. What a travesty of time and material. But they need to be protected to do this. I don't want any of that to happen here in this city. I don't want any restrictions put on our police department. I want them to freely do what they need to do. Law enforcement is a very important part of this process. I realize people think that maybe I'm a very liberal person when it comes to homelessness, but I believe there's only one way to do it, and that's change their minds. Most of them have mental issues, and these mental issues can be resolved. Some of them have been diagnosed. They need to be put somewhere. But as far as the police department, you know, they have a police officer's code of conduct. I would just add 2 things to it: be firm and fair. You'll never have to apologize because you won't do something wrong then. And doing it that way, you'll never have restrictions. This red light mean I'm over time? I'm sorry. I guess that's all. In conclusion is just we're getting all these organizations getting together to resolve the problem. It starts with the mental issues. That's where I come in. I counsel them in a godly manner. I give them common sense, godly information. And through that, several have gotten out of being homeless. And I don't mean just going somewhere. They've gone through drug addiction, and then they've been placed in homes and been reunited with their families. This is a real possibility that once we get the whole process perfected, it can be transported to other places and be a working template everywhere it goes.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gosh will be followed by Marianne Darwin.
Mayor and City Council, Eric Goss from the Goss Auto Group. I wrote a letter or an email to the city clerk, and I think she may have given it to all of you. She has printed copies as well. I understand it's actually going to be heard at your April 10th meeting, not tonight. I hope to be at that meeting, but may not be able to make it. And it's a seemingly small but very important issue regarding the Hemet Auto Mall and its development and future. It was developed in 1989 by all 8 dealers in town with no outside developer and the city of Hemet. It brought 4 dealers into the city limits, doubled the sales tax of the city, of the car dealers who were at that time in the county, with no outside developer, done literally by the dealers in the city themselves. And the city developed the infrastructure. There are 3 streets in the Auto Mall, 2 public streets, Carriage Boulevard and Auto Mall Boulevard, and there's a private cul-de-sac about 100 yards long that is unnamed. It's private. It's been used by only the Gosh dealerships for 27 years as our service entrance to our service departments. It's actually owned by the Dr. Peterson, whose property is outside the wall. Dave Petter, the Chrysler and Nissan dealer in town, has purchased 3 acres outside the wall and is building a Chrysler dealership there. As part of that process, he bought this land that has the private street. Gosh has an easement on it. We can continue to use it through that easement. However, since he actually purchased the land, he came to the Traffic Commission 2 meetings ago and asked to name it Petter Way, after himself, literally after his own name. The vote was 2-2. There wasn't 5 people there, so it was continued. The next meeting, in a surprise move to both staff and the commission, they proposed to name it Jeep Way or Dodge Way or some name like that. We don't know exact name what the proposal was. Amazingly, the council and city staff failed to consider several facts and approved that name. So my objections to that name, I think, are obvious and common sense. First of all, it's a trademark infringement. You can't name something after a company that has a trademark on that name. Jeep would be could sue the city for using their name as a street name in the city. Public safety endangerment. Someone coming to Jeep Way, you send an ambulance to Jeep Way, where are they going to most likely go? They're going to go to the Jeep store, which is being built there. They're not going to go to the Ford store where the heart attack victim is, and someone could die because of the misdirection of public safety personnel. Is anti-development. The street is going to continue to extend beyond, a new street, extend beyond, and they'll be named Jeep Way or whatever is decided. Obviously, no future car dealer is going to want to have his company on Jeep Way. It doesn't serve just one business. It's not a private street in the sense that it also serves our dealerships. The city has been involved in other private street naming. I understand Sierra Dawn specifically has private streets, but the city got involved years ago in naming those streets and with obviously the involvement of the developer. And certainly confuses and misdirects the public. We have no reason to be able to tell people that we're actually at a Ford dealership is on Jeep Way. It's anti-competitive. The city should not be in a game of choosing sides as to which company should or shouldn't be beneficial of a particular naming of a street. And bottom line is it should be obviously some name that promotes the city and the future development. Choose some name that's automotive related, transportation related, that's non-competitive, non-advantageous to any particular party. We have not tried in the last 27 years to name it Ford Way or Gosh Street because that was just so ludicrous to even think of such a thing. It's been unnamed for 27 years. I understand you're here at the April meeting, and thank you for your consideration.
Good evening. Hi. So I do have actually positive things to say tonight. Okay, so I am on the panhandling committee. I don't know how else to explain that. But we are now out in the city, and we are helping to educate all the rest of the residents and the homeless to know where our money goes. So we've come up where we've realized that there are two types of people. There's more, but we just know two that want to give to the homeless. There's the ones that are afraid and have their change in hand and they're ready to give the minute they get out of the car. And then there's the other millennials that it makes them feel warm and fuzzy if they give them $1 to buy a soda or a hamburger. But last week I was actually, for my very first time, I was approached by a homeless person, and I was ready with my spiel of, no, I can't give you money, but that's not what he asked me for. He asked me for a ride. And then I wanted, my first question was, why? Where do you want to go? Why do I need to give you a ride? And he wanted to actually come to the corner of Florida and Lyons, which is my neighborhood. And I thought to myself, I really don't want to bring him to my neighborhood. So I'm going to ask him if there's somewhere I can bring him or if there's something I can do for him. Actually, what ended up happening was he had only been on the street 2 days, and he knew that the streets would eat him up if he stayed. And so I made a couple of phone calls because I'm new to this and I didn't really know where to go. And so Project Hope helped me out. Pastor Steve helped me out to direct me into Project Hope, and she also helped me, and with that, we got him to go to Liberty Ranch. So he agreed to go. His question was, am I not going with you? And I said, no, sorry, you're not going with me. But Pastor Rob was able to talk to him, and he agreed, and he went. So what I'm saying is that we are getting ready to work, and we're all manning the streets, and we're all going to do this together as a group, not just you or Carly out there, that we're all ready to take our city back. And we're going to do it all together with the right reasons and the information. You know, we all need the information. That's the most important part, is to have that information. So as I'm learning this, which is really more than I wanted to know, I feel that we are getting empowered. And we are going to take the city back. And it is going to be a place where people are going to want to come and not just think of meth labs when you mention Hemet. So, there you go.
Thank you.
Pat Griggs will be followed by Marie McDonald.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Unlike Mary Ann, I don't have good news. A couple weeks ago, we met with the city manager and some of the staff, and it did take us about 5 months to get that meeting, and I do have to say that the results of that meeting was rather disappointing. We keep asking the same questions, and we're not getting answers. One of the biggest concerns that I have is the perception, perhaps, of the city, or the misconception of the city of what it feels our financial position is, because it is not good. And I don't like to be a wet blanket, but I do want to read this from this California State Auditor's Corrective Action Plan. This is what they say. Accordingly, we will continue to maintain the high-risk designation of the city and will reassess that status upon review of Hemet's next update, which is due February 2018. I don't know if that update has been made or not. I haven't seen it posted anywhere, so I'm going to assume that it's not. One of the big questions that I had was, of course, with the water department, where I questioned the budget. And the budget that was entered mid-July had a beginning fund balance of under $500,000. That disturbed me. But when I saw the 6-month, I'm not even sure what it's labeled, but finance brought in a 6-month analysis of the budget, and it attempted to show that Hemet has a balanced budget. It doesn't. Even the state auditor says that there's a misrepresentation regarding the use of Measure U funds to balance the budget. So my concern is, if the council doesn't really admit what the financial status is, we're never going to get any better. And I'm hoping, and I keep asking, and We had our, we were out asking for signatures. I think we really need a forensic accounting of the water department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Excuse me. There have been some troubling articles in the Valley Chronicle over the past several weeks. They were troubling because they stated inaccurate and untrue statements regarding the use of Measure U funds. The last article also stated, quote, "It is unclear to the state auditor how additional Measure U funds are being used," unquote. Neither Jeff Redar or myself, nor Mrs. Roca, our Hemet financial director, have been contacted by the state auditor to discuss their concern. Jeff and I strongly feel that two actions are appropriate. Number one, that the state auditor be contacted by the Hemet City Council and Measure U Oversight Committee to discuss their concern. And two, that the Hemet City Council and Measure U Oversight Committee together draft an open letter to the Hemet community, assuring our Hemet residents that Measure U funds have not been misused. I know you can't respond to me now, but I hope that you will do so in the immediate future.
Thank you. That was our last speaker.
That was your last speaker.
All right, moving along. There are no action items for tonight, so we'll move on to some council reports. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure of doing some fun and enlightening things since our last council meeting. On the 21st, I attended, along with our city's emergency services coordinator, a crisis leadership and decision-making seminar that was hosted by a private company that's under contract by the Homeland Security. And interestingly enough, it was held at the city of Moreno Valley in their emergency operations center, which I have to say was quite an impressive facility. That I have to say that just on my observation of that facility and the presence of a large number of staff representatives from the city of Moreno Valley, that they're certainly on the right track for getting their community prepared. So, got some good information, as did our ESC, and I'm looking forward to applying what we've learned and been exposed to going forward with our similar efforts here in our city. On the 22nd, I also have the privilege of attending the Hemet San Jacinto Students of the Month award presentation. And I have to say that, you know, in light of all the negative things that we see and hear about, particularly about the youth of our community, it is absolutely refreshing to see that caliber of youth being represented and acknowledged. It gives you hope that our future is not as dismal as it appears many times watching the 6 o'clock news and reading the newspaper. So
kudos to those students and their accomplishments. I also had the opportunity to participate for 2 days on the Colorado River Aqueduct tour that was hosted by Metropolitan Water District and EMWD, and along with our Public Works Director, Chris, who probably knows a whole lot more about water than I did going into it, but I think we both learned an awful lot, and it was really enlightening to learn more details about water delivery from that direction of the Colorado River. I had a chance to do the Northern California tour back in 2002, so I've seen how we get water to Southern California from both directions, and it was a good exchange because we had people from LA participating on the tour. We also had some participants, ranchers from the Sacramento Delta area. So it was a good commingling, and they made some very nice comments about what they learned because they came in with some preconceived ideas about us Southern Californian people taking their water. And so they got an education about that, and they corrected themselves on that belief. So I would highly encourage anybody, council or staff that has not yet had the opportunity to go on that tour to try to get on it if they can, because it was very educational. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Linda?
RCTC Budget and Implementation Committee was Monday, and we approved some bond swaps for RCTC, which was an interesting process, and they went on the market today, in New York, so it might be an opportunity for local investment in local investment. But one of the things I wanted to say was, as a cautionary, don't miss any meetings. I missed the February meeting, and I came back, and I was the vice chair. So, lesson learned. Do not miss a meeting. So, Ramona Bowl Association, last Saturday, about 50 or 60 members of the cast were in San Juan Capistrano and participated in the Swallows Day Parade, which is the largest non-motorized parade in the United States. It was really interesting because as we were watching, we went, oh, they look just like us, because it was Native Americans and Spanish dancers and cowboys and more horses than you can imagine, but it was a really good experience for everyone. April 7th is the Ramona Spring Festival downtown. On North Harvard Street will be from 10 to 3, and it's late 1860s fun. And then the Food Truck Festival on South Carmelita at Fingerprints from 2 to 9. And if you've never experienced 5,000 fourth graders in one spot at the same time, you're all invited to be chaperones up at the Ramona Bowl on April 19th, because that is fourth grade day, and there's nothing like 5,000 fourth graders running around, having a good time and enjoying. And you always know when the kissing scene is because all these wonderful noises. And then Ramona starts on April 21st, and First Nighter, it will be that evening starting at 6 o'clock, and it will be at the Hemet Stock Farm. It is open to the public for, I believe, it's either $10 or $15 for an outdoor barbecue and a dinner, dancing in a barn. It's always fun, so you need to get your tickets in advance. Call the Ramona Bowl, 658-3111, and hope to see you all there. And that's all I have. It's all Ramona. It's that time of the year. There you go. Well, Planning Commission was kind of uneventful. It was probably the fastest Planning Commission I've ever been to.